Truth is that we need each other. And yeah, like, let's just be human, you know?
So one thing about transition is raising awareness. And when you go out of here and you go to the real world, or whatever you want to call it, you see that level of awareness is not there. And so one thing, and I'm also looking for my mission, is how do I reach out to this level of unawareness that is around me, and which is very painful sometimes. Thanks.
Were you here last night? You weren't. Okay, because I kind of answered that last night, but it's worth repeating. I mean, because this is probably the question I get the most. You know, like, what do I do about all the all the people who don't get it? You know, who are not aware, who are asleep. And you can try to convince them of the truth, but that doesn't work. Convincing doesn't work. People will feel threatened, actually. Convincing is actually force. It's kind of using logical force. And people, if they're not ready to let go of that world, then they will resist your force. And your efforts to persuade them will actually be counterproductive. So how do you get somebody to more easily let go of a worldview and of a story that is destroying the planet and making them actually miserable? How do you do that? If not by convincing them of something else that's true. The way that I recommend doing it is to give people an experience that doesn't fit into their world. So often that experience will be an act of generosity of some sort. Let me just finish with this. So if somebody is generous, so suppose your worldview is kind of like, yeah, we're all in it for ourselves. And there's a lot of bad people out there, and I've got to watch out for myself, and it's not safe. The world isn't safe. How do you make someone feel safe? Well, it could be through giving them the experience of being totally accepted and not judged. It could be through the experience of being forgiven of something. It could be through the experience of receiving a gift that there's no way that there's any strings attached. It's just, you can't explain it. Something like that doesn't fit into the world of separation. It doesn't make sense. It's a flagrant counterexample. It's one of those facts that I was talking about that doesn't fit into the story, and it kind of punctures that story. So even like hearing about generosity can change someone's world. That happened to me once when I read this article about a train wreck in Peru. There was like a big train wreck there in a remote part of the country, and it was cold. And the survivors of the train wreck were like stranded in the middle of nowhere, and it was cold. And the local villagers came with blankets and gave their blankets to all of the people on the train. And these blankets are something that take weeks and months to weave by hand, and these villagers were very poor and they had no other blankets, but they gave everything they had to the people who needed them. And so, you know, I read that story and I'm like, it kind of expanded my world, you know, and it made me feel like, yeah, I can give too. So last year there was a guy in the United States who went to all the Kmarts, which is like a big department store that sells really, really cheap stuff. And that's where all the poor people shop for their Christmas gifts. And they can't pay for it all at once. So they buy it on credit. And the store keeps the toy or the bicycle or whatever they're going to buy. And they come and they pay $5 every week until it's paid off and they can take it home and give it to their child for Christmas. And so last year, this guy, he went around to Kmart's and he paid off people's accounts. And so can you imagine, like, you're a poor person and you've got your $5 extra and you're going to come and make your payment, and the cashier says, "Oh, your account has been paid in full." And you're like, "Are you sure? Is there some mistake?" "No, a man came and paid it in full." "Well, who was it?" "He prefers not to be known." Like, that doesn't fit into your world. That's what you call a miracle. A miracle is simply something that doesn't fit into your belief system. How could that happen? Experiencing something like that can be really transformative because it shows you that your world was too small. It shows you that reality is bigger than you thought it was. And it also makes you feel a little safer to let go. Like, I look in my life, what made me feel safe to let go of a limiting, selfish, separate belief system? What made me feel safe? It was when somebody totally accepted me. I told this story last night. I'm not going to tell it again because it's too sacred to me to tell twice in a row. But I had an experience of somebody seeing through me completely, seeing through all of my ego games and loving me anyway. And I had thought up until then that I had to put on a mask, put on a personality, put on a persona, and hide all of my ugly parts or I wouldn't be loved. And this person saw right through to all of my ugly parts and he still loved me. And that blew my world apart. That I couldn't fit that into my worldview. And it was one of the things that pushed me into this empty space between worlds. Like, everything I thought was true isn't true. So if you want to take it back to your question, if you want to change the people who don't get it, that's what you do. You find something that doesn't fit into their world. And sometimes you'll be blessed with the opportunity to do that in a really big way. Usually it's a small thing. It could just be a friendly greeting to somebody who's not expecting it. It could be maybe someone at one of the restaurants here who's getting meaner and meaner. I don't know if you guys have noticed, like, some of the people there are really mean now, you know? And, you know, one story, they're a mean person. And another, and they just want my money. Another story, they're kind of tired after working 17-hour days for the last week. But anyway, so there's this kind of field of expectation where they're being mean and they expect you to be mean, or at least expect you to be impersonal or kind of polite in a fake way. But you could maybe break through that and do something that doesn't fit into that little pattern. You know, you could say, you look pretty tired. You know, how are you feeling? You know, or you could maybe, yeah, can I buy you a drink? Or let me give you some more money. You know, thank you for what you do. You know, something like that can kind of, in a small way, that's a small way, kind of pop that bubble, you know. But sometimes you can do it in a big way, and those opportunities are a huge gift in your life. So, yeah, that's my answer to that. And I guess we are probably over our time limit now. We are over our time limit. So I will end it with that, just with this just acknowledging that we all have, it's really just living from, when we live ourselves from a different story, from the story of interconnection, from the story of what's happening to you is happening to me, that you are me in some way, then we start doing those things naturally that don't fit into the world of separation. We start being really generous. We start being non-judgmental. We start loving people because we see their beauty and we see their gifts. And so we do those things that, acting from that place, we do the things that don't fit into separation. And therefore, it's contagious. So, yeah, I would say that simply living from this truth that we're touching now will change the world. So thank you all. Yeah, and thank you for not like making me be perfect. Yeah.
If you really want to live this
deep in the field, so shall we hold hands or or shoulder? Yeah, then you can hold the mic.
Okay, the fact is that a year ago I decided to quit my job, and 3 weeks ago I actually did, because I wanted to finish my class, or the class I'm mentor of, till the end at a Waldorf school. And I did it because I wasn't certain if I was there in the right place, doing the right thing, giving my gift. And if it was accepted, because I felt so less energy coming back. And the first story is that I'm just being egocentric and saying, well, this doesn't feel good, so just step out of it and run away from this discomfort. And you're a bit weak, not staying there, because there are things to learn and you can grow there. And these kids are telling you a lot of wonderful things, and but maybe it's, yeah, I can't do it right now. And the other story is that my heart tells me that I'm maybe not in the right place, and that I might find something better, but I don't know what that is yet. So I have to have empty hands to in order to take what is there in front of me. But I'm quite afraid because I don't know where it's going to take me. And yeah.
Good. Yeah, thank you for those stories. So what's true?
It's true that my heart tells me it was a good decision, because I felt really, felt as a relief. So that must be true.
It felt as a relief. Yeah, yeah, good. What else is true?
Yeah, my parents are a bit upset, and to step out of this system they already knew, and I want to show them that it is possible to follow your heart, and that something great can happen then. So that's also true.
Yeah, and what's true right now?
Right now I'm really enjoying just being in the moment. Yeah, and I think that is what I have to do.
I feel like there's one more thing that's true.
Yeah, me too, but I don't know yet what it is. I already said that I feel trust in the process. Yeah.
100% trust?
You never know what's going to happen next day, so a bit scary, yeah. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah. And it's good to be a bit scared, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Do you feel complete?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Thank you. So you just kind of hold the space, until the thing that wanted to come out, like, yeah, I feel a bit scared. And that's okay. So that was, to me, that was the thing that wanted to appear. And you find, and then the process ends. Because just seeing that, just having the truth come out, will cause a change to happen. Magically. Okay? So everybody understand this? Are there any questions about it? Should I do another one? No. No, yes, no, yes. No, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll do the process, and then if anyone still feels stuck, then maybe we can do it again up here. If someone wants to, try work on it some more. So, and this was a really good modeling because, each story was quite succinct. You don't have to tell everything about it, but just enough to give the essence of it. Like I could have done mine. Everyone rejected my book. Story number 1 is because it sucks. Story number 2 is because they can't see how good it is. Like I could even do it that succinctly. So don't take too much time on the stories, but a couple of minutes, give them some air, and then go into the what's true process. And in about 5-6 minutes, I'll signal you that you should hopefully sooner, switch roles. Okay? Enjoy. When the first partner is done, then give it a few moments of silence and then switch roles. Okay, so if you could wrap it up in the next half minute, please, and then give me your attention. Much like powerful intellect, but more of like creative intellect, you know, and receptive. I have a gift of courage.
I see you have the gift of inquiry, of asking questions when you don't understand something and finding out the answers so other people can, so you can share them with other people. You have the gift of playfulness. You have the gift of freedom, freedom in your heart. You have the gift of being able, because you now choose to, always march to your own drummer and to follow your heart and your path. You have the gift of pointing others at the path, not in a judgmental way like they should go there, but just, you're like, hey, here's a path. Pretty cool. Check it out. You have the gift of sincerity. You have joy. You have joy in your heart. You are a gift.
Thank you. You get the idea. I'm also very handsome. Okay, so like the gifts, sometimes they just jump right out at you, you know? Other times you have to create a little space for them, like some silence, and like you don't have to like try hard to figure them out, you know? Like it might take 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds even of silence, and then you see something. And don't even worry about if you're making it up, you know? Like that's okay too, right? But really give it, if you need to, give it some time to emerge until there's something that feels true, all right? So again, and this doesn't really take too long, and when your partner is telling you the gifts they see, you just receive. Just receive it. Just receive it, all right? So have fun. All right. So I'd like to have your attention again. But stay near your partner. So now we're going to do the special part of this. You know, I'll just wait for another second. Some people aren't done yet. Sorry about that. Exactly is this transition that we're going through? Everybody can feel that it's not a little technical glitch that needs to be fixed. We can feel like with the financial crisis, for example, we have this sense and that normal is not going to come back. And when we think about everything falling apart, everything changing, if you're like me, you feel two things at the same time. On the one hand, there's fear. There's this dread because it's uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. And some very bad things can happen. In fact, some very bad things are happening around the world as our systems begin to fall apart. And so that's part of us is afraid and wants to kind of hold on tighter to the old world. But there's another part of us that's like, yeah, baby, bring it on. You know, and you kind of look at the news, look at the peak oil websites, you know, or some of these websites, and you're kind of, or the financial news, and you're kind of hoping that things fall apart. You know, you're hoping that the world will fall apart. So this is quite natural. You know, fear and desire are intimate partners. Fear and desire are intimate partners. What we want the most is to transcend the boundaries of our world. But that's also what we're the most afraid of. And I don't want to make fear into an enemy here. Fear is a natural protective mechanism that, in fact, creates the boundaries of our world. And and you could even say that fear creates a safe space that we can grow in. But many, many people are coming to the point where that safe space feels too small, and we want to break free and enter a bigger world. So we have this feeling that everything is changing and that the changes go all the way to the bottom. The way I describe how deep the changes are is I say, well, it's our world-defining myth that's changing. Every culture has basic myths, so basic that they don't even know that they're myths. We don't even know that we have myths, but we do. We have basic stories that create our whole world. And these stories are transitioning now. One of them is the story of self. It says, who are you? And this story for generations, for centuries, has told us that what we are these separate beings in a universe of other. And we have a story of the people that says, what are we? Why are we here? What's important? What's sacred? And for centuries it is said, and I'm talking about the West here, it is said that we are here to rise above nature and to conquer nature. And these stories are changing now into a new understanding of self that includes all beings, so that we know that we're not separate, that there's something of you and me, and that what I do to the world, I am doing to myself. That's the new golden rule. The old golden rule was a rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and if you do that, you're good, and Jesus will like you, and you'll get rewards. But the new golden rule is actually the golden reminder, which says, it's a simple statement of fact. It says, as you do to others, you are actually doing it to yourself, because the others are part of yourself. And that's why our Western culture is so unhappy, because we're doing all this stuff to the world unconsciously, and maybe we're not starving or dying, but inside the same thing is happening to us. So anyway, so the new story of the self is the interconnected self, and the new story of the people, which I described last night, is instead of taking from Earth and transcending nature, it's rejoining nature, becoming part of the circle of the gift, part of the tribe of all life on Earth. And everybody knows this. So that's kind of the background. Now, what we're going to do today You see, even if you intellectually reject the old stories and embrace the new ones, all of us have very deep habits, beliefs, mindsets that are still based in separation. And when we live from these, we can't really create things from that are fully grounded in reunion, in connection. So today I'd like to kind of to invite everybody to a few processes where we'll kind of join together and establish some different habits and clear away some of the old habits of separation. Let me give you an example of a habit of separation. One habit of separation is that you walk around with this secret suspicion that most people are trying to get something from me. I find that habit triggered a lot here when I go to buy something, and like I tried to go into a store and they like wouldn't let me in, and someone had a purse and they're like, you have to put the purse there. You know, you can't take the purse in with you because you might steal something. And it's kind of this like I know you just want to take, because that's the way the world works. So we have to guard against each other. And when I experience that, then I start to feel it too, you know? Like, oh yeah, you're just trying to take my money here, so I'm not going to buy this, and you're probably trying to rip me off, and how can I protect myself from the people around me? People do steal, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Right, and when someone steals from you, that enforces that way of looking at things, right? And makes you, yeah, see, it's true, it makes you even more guarded. So it's not about being unguarded, but it's about a fundamental way of looking at the world. And if you wanted to say, well, why do people steal? What is the mindset that causes stealing? Eventually, you'd probably come down to separation, lack of trust, inabundance. And it's not just a mental thing. If you live in a system that is oppressive and generates poverty and is based on debt that you can never pay, and you have to convert your whole life into money to keep paying these debts, of course you're going to feel that way. It's not an easy transition to make. But fundamentally, we live in an abundant world. And I find, and I've met so many people who echo this experience, that when we step into a different vision of the universe, then our experience changes as well. So that's kind of what we're going to work with a little bit today. Let me give you another example of a habit of separation. Envy. Envy. This is something that I feel sometimes. You know, I'm an author, I write books, you know, and sometimes someone recommends a book to me and says, Charles, this book is amazing. And yeah, and it's a bestseller, you know? And I'm like, well, what about my book? Mine's amazing. And why is everyone recommending this book and buying this book and not mine? Okay? Like, so what's going on here? Well, there's a basic belief in me that says more for you, more for this author is less for me. If people are buying his book, then they're not buying my book. It's not fair. I want enough too. So it's coming from a belief in scarcity. Now, as a matter of fact, it's probably the truth that if people read this life-changing book, they'll probably actually be more likely to buy my book too. It's actually not true that more for you is less for me. But that belief is built into our basic mythology. Because if we're separate beings in a universe of other, then the more that I control, the more that I own, then there's less for you to control and to own. So that's another way that we can deprogram ourselves. And maybe I'll give you one more example. I've gone over my 15 minutes already. Sorry, but there's another example of a habit of separation. And that would be judgment. Judgment of others. Judgment meaning, it's a very special meaning when I say judgment. Judgment is the feeling, if I were you, I wouldn't be doing what you're doing. If I were in a position of political power, I wouldn't be doing those things. I'm better than that. Really what it's saying is I'm better than you. If I were driving that car, I wouldn't have just cut in front of me, right? I'm not a kind of person who does that. There's a bad person out there. So basically what you're saying is I'm fundamentally separate from you. And then maybe I'll mention some more habits of separation later. But I want to start out today with a little activity to just kind of practice the thing that I left off with last night, the seeing the world through the eyes of the gift. Because the gift is the counter principle to separation. In a gift society, it's not true that more for you is less for me. In a gift society, like say a hunter-gatherer society, in which possessions were a burden because you were nomadic and you had to carry everything with you, in that society, if you wanted, if you had more than you needed, then you would give things to somebody who needed them. And in primitive agricultural societies too, if you had, say, lots and lots of grain, if you kept it in your own storehouse, it would go bad. But if you had lots of big feasts and shared your food with lots of people, then everybody would know that you were a generous person, and they would invite you to their feasts too. And if you had some misfortune, then they would help you in your time of need. So wealth and status came from how much you gave, not how much you owned and controlled. and yeah, right. And that was our past. But and anywhere in the world where the past is still a little bit alive, maybe in rural Portugal, you can still see the gift culture. You can still see pieces of the gift culture. Yes, you can. Like in Ireland, in like rural Ireland, you know. Yeah, right. Someone stole all your food and then someone gave you a meal voucher. Yeah, yeah. You can, right, yeah. So yeah, like at these festivals, there's a gift culture that wants to come out. You know, it's kind of, in some of them there's more of it than others, but you come here and you're like, you know, you want to let go of how can I get more for me. You want to start sharing stuff, and when you do, you feel good. Everybody wants to do this all the time, but in normal society, there's not a lot of opportunities to do that. There's not a lot of, it's just not in the social fabric. But here is like a special place, you know, where the usual rules of society are temporarily suspended, and that allows our natural desires to come out a bit more. Anyway, so this desire to give is primal in us. You see it in ancient cultures. You see it in traditional places. The virtue of hospitality, for example. Every traditional place, the guest is a very special person, and you treat the guest with great honor. And when you make a gift, you create a bond with somebody. Because now that person is now obligated. If they pay you, then there's no obligation. I already paid for that. But if someone gives you something, like someone gave you food, maybe you're not going to pay back that person with any gift. But you feel now that the world is generous and you're going to be more willing to give too. So giving creates connections in the world. So part of the transition that we're going through is to see the world and the self through the eyes of the gift. The gift is what, you know, I can talk about reunion and interconnectedness and all that, but when it comes down to practicality, what is the practice of reunion in this world of flesh and blood and matter? The practice is the gift. And it can be material gifts, it can be spiritual gifts, it can be gifts of healing, it can be gifts of touch, it can be compliments, it can be there's so many ways that we can give to each other. So I'd like to lead you in a little partner process here. Like it's kind of, I just say, call it a conversation. And it's about your own giftedness, which might be a little uncomfortable for some of you. And there might be like a little cynical voice, like, oh man, this is bullshit, you know, I don't want to have like a programmed conversation. But I'll just request that you just give it a chance, okay? So the way it works is that you'll just partner up with somebody. It could be somebody that you know, that you came with, but I would suggest, and that's really rich, but I would suggest actually finding a stranger. And we're all gifted in lots of ways, of course. I mean, you could say that everything we are is a gift, even our bodies, you know, our breath, our world. I mean, we're all very gifted. But I'm thinking about the gifts that you have, the gifts that you carry that are meant to create something greater than yourself. And I mentioned this transition to a new relationship to Earth, right? Where we desire to give to Earth and not just take from Earth anymore. We desire to heal the planet. We desire to create a better society. We yearn for social justice. We yearn for freedom, for liberation for all beings. You know, we have all of these things that we want to create. And we all, thanks. You guys are great here. This is just like an amazing place as far as resonance. Yeah. Okay. So we have, thanks. So basically I'm saying tap into your sense of mission. Even if you can't be quite sure what that mission is, tap into that sense of mission. In fact, do that now. Feel what you care about, you know? Feel your caringness. Feel that sense that I was put here on earth to do something significant. You can feel it. And I don't care if that significant thing is just in your family or in your community or in your region or politically, but you know it. You know that it's true, that you're here to do something significant, even if 50 years of education has told you that you're here to make a living and to survive. But you know better, right? Okay. So I'd like then, and it just takes a couple minutes, I will signal you halfway through. I will whistle into the microphone. I'll whistle into the microphone when it's time to switch. But take 2 or 3 minutes and you just share with somebody. You say, the gifts that I carry are. What gifts? The gifts that I bring are. My gifts are. And share with your partner. I'll whistle, and then the listener will speak, and the speaker will listen. And also, I encourage you, when you're listening, to just simply give your partner attention and practice seeing your partner as a bringer of gifts. And this is something that eventually you can do all the time with everybody, because everybody is a bringer of gifts. And what would the world be like if we all saw each other, first impression, not, what can I get from you? How can I make you like me? How can I get some advantage from you? How can I get money from you? How can I get sex from you? How can I get a positive self-image from you? Like, what if we saw, what if every encounter was, what are your gifts? How could we create something together by bringing our gifts together? Like, what if we went around and saw the world through those eyes? I find that when I am able to do that, people respond to me very differently. Because unconsciously, that gets signaled if you're trying to get something from somebody rather than seeking to bring out the gifts of all. So it's the beginning of a different habit, a habit of reunion, not of separation. All right, so as you listen, see your partner as a bringer of gifts. And when you guys partner up, if you don't have a partner, raise your hand and find someone else whose hand is raised. Okay, so go to it. I'll whistle halfway through.